This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Emerald Flow Show. We're a podcast on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. You can follow us on Twitter at Emerald Flow Show. And if you're feeling very generous, you can go to voicesofwrestling.com/donate to donate to the show. I'm Gerard DeTroio here with Paul Vosch. Paul, we've made it to 25 episodes.
Yeah, not only have we made it to 25 episodes, we're really only like a month and a half away from completing an entire year. So we're going strong right now, heading into the Christmas season.
So does that put us at like the top 1% of podcasts that managed to last a year?
I mean, we're getting closer unless like something major happens in like the next couple of months that just causes the whole thing to just complete. Like both Noah and All Japan go out of business and we don't have anything to cover anymore.
Theoretically not impossible.
Otherwise, we're grand.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I think Cody Rhodes said it best when he said,
"What do you guys want to talk about?"
But we'll deal with that later. So first off, I had to just talk about Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita from the last episode of Rampage. Paul, this is my new match of the year, actually. I went 5 stars on it. I just thought it was incredible. I thought it was a match where every move made sense in the context of the match. This might sound like a strange comparison, but I compared it to, have you ever seen Hideki Suzuki versus Josh Barnett from IGF?
Yeah, I've seen that one. That one was amazing. So it's as good as that one.
Well, yeah, but the reason why I sort of invoked that match, because to me, every move in that match made sense, and there was like no wasted motion, basically. And to me, that's like the pinnacle of pro wrestling, because obviously, like in so many matches, even in, infamously like Kento Miyahara and Kazuchika Okada, there's a little bit of filler at times, right? But
yes, no, both of them have their structure, and yeah, they tend to just put some filler in there sometimes in the middle of the match.
But to me, what it just made it like a perfect match was just how they used every second of the match, and it was just incredible. Oh, and the fact that the crowd started booing Moxley and chanting for Takeshita, which was an incredible moment, I thought.
That is genuinely impressive, because getting that crowd to boo Mox, like especially with like the stature that Mox now has with the AEW crowd, like, and maybe it's time to strap up Takeshita.
Definitely. I mean, I think after this point, he's going to get that big win on like TV and not on like Dark, and the crowd will go unglued. It'll be like nuclear heat.
I mean, he is signed to AEW now, right? So now he's your guy. So now you can push him. Now you can put titles on him. So I think really like they need to do it if that's the reaction that he got for that match.
Absolutely. But I just thought I would touch on that match really quickly because I just thought it was so incredible. So there's not a lot of Noah news this week, but there is some financial news on sort of Cyber Fight's finances in the last fiscal year that ended in September. They lost 682 million yen, which is just under $5 million US, versus losses of 284 million yen in 2021. Paul, I think in 2022 they had some, and coming up they'll have a few extra paychecks to write.
No, it's clear that Cyberfight is doomed. No, I think it's fine. Like, I think they had like a lot of like relatively large capital expenditures as well. Like they had to complete like Wrestle Universe redesign. They had some really massive kind of like stages and everything that they were using this year. Like they ran some really big buildings. So I'm not surprised at all that they lost 5 million. Like it would have actually, if they had actually made a profit this year, that actually would have been, like if that was the story, that would have been a massive success, because I don't think anyone in Cyberfight or in Abema expected them to make any kind of profit this year. So the fact that they really only lost like 5 million, which is nothing for a company like Abema, like I think really is not a concerning thing at all. Obviously long term, like I would assume that they would prefer it if they made a profit. But again, at the end of the day, Cyberfight is a line item that is supposed to provide content for Abema. So really, as long as losses don't go out of control, I don't think anyone should be really too worried about it.
I would say that the only possible issue in the horizon is that Cyber Agents profits were down this year versus last, and their projections for the next couple of years are the profits are lower, but they saying that's because their games division is releasing fewer games and that they're investing more in Abema because they put the World Cup on Abema in Japan and they paid a lot for it.
And it paid off for them as well because the Japanese team went really far in that one. So I would assume that will probably really like help their brand as well, and that can only mean positive things for Cyberfight itself as well if Abema's profile becomes that much larger.
Absolutely. So that's why I wouldn't be particularly concerned about the losses, but I think it's sort of interesting that they're up.
Yeah. No. It is, like I said, it is a line item, and then at the end of the day, I mean, the way I can compare it to is like ROH when it was owned by Sinclair, where like ROH losing money wasn't necessarily that much of an issue until obviously Sinclair made that ill-fated purchase of the baseball channels. And then all of a sudden, like, over-leveraged themselves on debt and needed to cut costs. And then something like ROH becomes like a luxury item that you don't really need anymore. And that then really endangered the future until they got bought by Tony Khan. So really, unless like Cyberfight does something stupid does like a stupid M&A move or something like that, that will then result in them having to cut costs or cut the fat, basically. That's when I would get worried for Cyberfight, but I wouldn't be worried about Cyberfight like losing a little bit of money.
No, definitely not. So we'll move on then to All Japan Pro Wrestling. Not much going on here, right, Paul?
Yeah, no, nothing's really happened in All Japan. Like I think it's just been a real kind of quiet week, and I think, I know it's a short episode, but I think maybe like 7 minutes sometimes it's good too. So let's just end it here. So. Yeah. See you in about 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. Bye. Okay. No, seriously, we will get into everything that's happened. And we start off with the second to last show of the Real World Tag League that happened on December 4th in Osaka Edion Arena, number 2, in front of 707 fans. First tournament match of the show was the Junior Battle of Glory. Rising Hayato defeated Ryo Inoue in 5:28 with the Sid Vicious. We went over this on last episode. Hayato's really hitting a stride, and Inoue has got his new shooter persona and everything. So this is a nice little opener, I thought.
Yeah, this was a really nice opener as well. I agree. I really we've been talking about like Ryo Inoue, like adding like the kicks and everything to his repertoire. But I really felt like he like got much more comfortable with that persona like throughout this entire tour as well. And I would even say that this might have been like my favorite match of his for the entire tournament.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I'd have to think about that and go back and look at my notes at some of the earlier stuff in the tournament because I really liked his match against Atsuki as well. And then next up, Hikaru Sato defeated Hokuto Omori in 9 minutes and 56 seconds via referee stoppage. Once again, Omori couldn't last to the bell, which, makes him look a bit like a geek, but the same thing did happen to Atsuki earlier on in the tournament as well. I've always really enjoyed the chemistry between these two, and this was no exception. And I honestly thought that, Omori had a chance here, but that didn't turn out to be true.
So, yeah, they really went with the whole, Hokuto Omori loses all of his matches in this tournament. So I'm really curious what they're going to do with him in 2023. Actually, after this match happened, I was fully convinced that he was going to leave the promotion at the beginning of the year.
But what are you talking
since
about?
Then
People
he
leaving?
has kind of dispelled those rumors. So it doesn't seem like he's leaving. So that obviously hopefully means that they have some sort of plan for him going forward.
Well, Paul, as you know, no one ever leaves All Japan.
No, definitely no one leaves All Japan. No one has left All Japan in the last couple of days. There's been no major movements there. And
then so next up, we go to Atsuki Aoyagi defeated Dan Tammer in 9 minutes and 29 seconds with the La Magistral. I guess, well, we can talk about that later, but some interesting booking here, I think, with Aoyagi going over. And I thought this was pretty good. I thought the last couple of minutes were a lot of fun with sort of Atsuki sort of finally coming from behind to win it with a bit of a flash pin. Although I think they would have a better match in them. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep, I thought this was fine. I probably have like probably had a few too high expectations for this one. But it was still an overall solid match. And I think they worked the story here really well with Dan just having been so dominant throughout the entire tournament. That it worked really well that Atsuki was working from underneath despite the fact that he is the champion. So I thought that was a story that worked pretty well here. But yeah, as you talked about, like they were going to have a better match later.
And then we'll jump into the real world tag league matches, Paul, unless you want to talk about the Bodyguard.
I mean, I would always love to talk about the Bodyguard, but there really is nothing to say about this match.
No, except for it seems with Ashino gone, Honda has to start becoming a jobber again.
I mean, I was actually wondering if these are like pins he was going to take anyway. Like it's actually like even more after like a match on like the next show. I'm wondering maybe if they were even supposed to win the tournament. Like if they were maybe just like the guys that got a load of wins early and then were like faltering down the stretch. And if these like pins that he is taking on like the two shows we're reviewing today, like if these were pins he was supposed to take anyway.
I actually think they were. I know. Sorry. I mean, I think I'm still pretty confident that they were going to at least force a final, if nothing else. And they had to throw that out with Ashino's injury. Some of the ways that they went into the final night was just, I thought, a little weird. So it still seemed to me like that was really screwed things up. And then the next match in the Real World Tag League, Jake Lee and Yuma Aoyagi defeated Yuji Nagata and Yuma Anzai in 13 minutes and 10 seconds when Jake used the backdrop on Anzai. This was pretty good, I thought. I enjoyed actually some of the stuff between Nagata and Jake. And, Anzai still looks strong here. I thought Yuma gave Anzai a lot and really sold for him to try to establish him.
Yeah, Yuma really was, because Yuma is kind of training the dojo as well, right? So, like, these two would actually have, like, quite a bit of experience against each other.
Yes, I believe so.
So I thought that was really, like, evident here. But, like, Yuma was willing to give. Okay, this is getting confusing. We need to figure out a system here. we need to start calling, like, I don't know if it was. We can't even call. Well, we probably have to call Yuma by his first name because we can't call him Aoyagi because there's another Aoyagi. So I guess just call Anzai Yuma Anzai because otherwise this gets confusing.
We could.
So I really thought that Yuma was willing to give Anzai a lot here. I agree with that, and I really think a lot of that was down to him being his trainer and just also knowing that, like, this guy's the future of the promotion.
Yeah, we could also call him Blue Yuma.
And so we're going to call him Blue Yuma. And, well, I mean, we don't have a color for the other one yet because it just has black trunks. So we're going to have to wait until Yuma Anzai gets his, like, proper colors. And then we can give him, like, a color name as well.
And then next up, Real World Tag League, Suwama and Kono defeated Koji Doi and Kuma Arashi in 14 minutes and 2 seconds with a giant knee drop from Kono on Arashi. Not good.
Yeah, this was bad.
Yeah.
This was really bad.
What did you expect, I guess? Because they were going to pull out the stops. Because I guess, like, Doi and Arashi are basically, like, sort of baby faces now.
I think they're very clear baby faces, especially with Total Eclipse just being over. I don't think they really have, like, any kind of, like, heelish thing in them anymore. But, yeah, this was just, like I said, we talked about this earlier, how, like, the Voodoo Murderers team just go, like, back and forth, basically, on, like, cheating and not cheating. I guess this time around it actually worked out for them with the cheating for once. But, yeah, I don't know, it was just kind of just the worst kind of Voodoo Murderers match, really.
And then the main event in the Real World Tag League, Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura defeated Shuji Ishikawa and Cyrus in 17 minutes and 36 seconds with a diving rolling clutch hold from Nomura on Cyrus. That was also assisted by a blackout knee from Kento. And I think Nomura is only the second person other than Kento to pin Cyrus in All Japan so far. So that's a bit of a feather in his cap. Paul, I thought this was really good. Again, we'll talk about what I thought was a better match in a minute. But they sort of established some of the dynamics that would go into the match on the following show, and also why I think we were talking about, well, was GOA supposed to go this far? I really don't think that they were going to do the same match in both tournaments back to back with the same results over two on back to back shows. It just makes no sense.
I mean, I guess so. So you would have expected then that like Ishikawa and Cyrus would have gone over on the final night, and then like they would have like in the normal tag match. Then that way they would have forced the final, and then like GOA would have won like the rematch on the same night, because like wouldn't that be the only thing that would make mathematical sense?
Well, I think I think what the idea could have been is GOA beat Cyrus and Ishikawa, and then they beat Takuya and Kento, but then you do the breakup angle between Kento and Takuya.
I mean, I guess so, but again, like you could have still done that and just like, well, to be fair, we don't know if Cyrus is going to be around for the like New Year's shows, so that might have been an issue why they didn't have those two guys win.
Right.
But yeah, it is definitely like very weird that we basically got the same match with the same result essentially back to back as well.
And then so we move on to the final night of the Real World Tag League on December 7th at Korakuen Hall in front of 801 fans. So I'll just mention this. They sort of have a Junior Battle of Glory special tag match to open the show, and it was Hikaru Sato and Ryo Inoue defeating Hokuto Omori and Rising Hayato in 7 minutes and 11 seconds when Sato used a Death Valley bomb on Hayato and not Inoue, and Omori did also not do the job. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, would also kind of become clearer, like why Sato got the win here as well. But yeah, it is interesting that like that Omori isn't the guy that took the pin here after he literally lost to every single person in the tournament. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely like giving Sato a bit of a push because he's going to challenge for the belt. But yeah, I wonder like what's going to happen there. But I guess we'll talk about that a bit more like when we talk about the Junior Battle of Glory final.
And then I think this is relevant. Suji Ishikawa and Cyrus defeated Ryuki Honda and Izanagi in 5 minutes and 28 seconds when Cyrus used a good old Vader bomb on Honda. This was like a squash. I thought Honda and Cyrus worked really well together. I would have liked to have seen, obviously, the full GOA team versus Ishikawa and Cyrus, because I think that could have been a great match. But yes, Honda. But I think here Honda doing the job was to put over Cyrus as a threat, as opposed to, he pins Izanagi, big deal.
Yeah. No, I would say so as well. Like that just really like establishes Cyrus as just that much more of a threat, like going into the finals as well. And well, I mean, unless like Izanagi literally like walked out after the next match happened, basically.
Yes. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, in the All Asia Tag Team Title 4 match, Takao Omori, Masao Inoue coming out to the NTV Sports theme, which I thought was a nice touch, defeated Yusuke Kodama and Masato Hanabata, the former champions Yoshitatsu and Tajiri, as well as Black Menso Ray and ATM in 7 minutes and 7 seconds when Inoue pinned Hanabata after an axe bomber from Omori, and they failed in their first defense. I don't know what the point of the title change was, because Yoshitatsu and Tajiri were in this anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious that they have like literally zero plans for the All Asia titles at the moment. Like they're just basically like, it's what I would describe, it's basically just like, it's Doi Darts booking. And I don't mean that in like the positive thing where like it's Doi Darts, it results in an exciting match that is completely random. I mean more like they probably just have a rotating dartboard and then they just throw darts at it to determine who's going to win like the All Asia Tag Team titles next. So like that's just what this feels like, and I have a feeling that that's what it's going to be like for like the next little while, because I don't think there doesn't seem to be anyone, like whoever is like booking now, there doesn't seem to be anyone there that has any kind of interest in like putting any kind of coherent story together here.
Well, we got somewhat of a story after the match. I wish I'd watched this live because I was spoiled on what happened after, because I kind of wonder what my reaction would have been when I hear that music hit. So we got the barks of the dogs, and then Nosawa Wrong Guy's theme. And he comes out, and I think the gist of his promo was something about like, oh, why are you defending these prestigious All Asia Tag Team titles in like a 4-way and everything like that? And then he challenges and says, oh, well, I need a partner, and it's going to be Kendo Caution. Paul, I don't like this at all.
What, Nosawa's booking 3 promotions now, right? I mean, that's what's happening here, obviously. Like he will just slowly but surely like take over booking for literally every promotion in Japan. Like he's booking Dragon Gate, he's booking All Japan, and you'll know that within like 2 weeks he's probably going to be booking New Japan as well.
Well, a friend of the pod, Voices of Wrestling contributor Griffin, noted that he's still up on the Great website too.
Oh yeah, so he's booking that one as well, obviously. So it's probably going to book Big Japan. Although to be fair, if he actually starts booking Big Japan, that's probably an improvement.
That would be improvement, absolutely. And we'll get into more of what Nosawa in All Japan means later. Next up, in the Real World Tag League, Jake Lee and Yuma Aoyagi defeated Koji Doi and Kuma Arashi in 14 minutes and 16 seconds when Aoyagi pinned Arashi. I thought this was decent. I thought it was a little unfocused in the middle, but I thought the last few minutes, especially like the Arashi and Yuma stuff, was good.
Yeah, I was a little bit because I was really looking forward to this match, but as I said, like it was just kind of like middling for a while there. I really liked the closing sequence, but yeah, everything before that, I don't know. Like it was just really kind of missing like urgency, I would say, because like Koji Doi and Kuma Arashi were technically still alive here. Obviously, Jake and Yuma weren't anymore, but yeah, I don't know. Like I really liked the finish, but then everything before that I thought was just like a bit boring, to be honest.
And next up, we have a lot to talk about here. Yuji Nagata and Yuma Anzai defeated Suwama and Kono in 12 minutes and 49 seconds when Anzai pinned Suwama with a German suplex hold. I mean, regardless of some of the stuff that I didn't like in this match, was still, I thought, just obviously a shocking result and a positive result. And, well, there's your proof that this guy's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you still don't think that they think that this guy is going, like, despite everything that they've done so far, if you still somehow don't think that All Japan thinks this kid is a big deal, like, just look at this. Like, they literally debuted him at Budokan against fucking Yuji Nagata, had him, like, had his theme played live in the arena, and then just, like, 2 to 3 months later, he gets his first ever pin over Suwama of all people. Like, they are going to push this kid and they're going to push him fast. Like, if it's going to work is a different question, but they are absolutely definitely going to try. Like, he is going to get a rocket push, like, next year. Like, I don't think he's going to win the Triple Crown. Like, I think that would be absolutely insane. But he's probably going to challenge for that belt. Like, he might already challenge for it next year. He at the very latest will challenge for the Triple Crown in 2024. And I don't think that's a very, like, outrageous prediction.
Oh, no, not at all. Definitely not. So next up, we had Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura defeated Jun Saito and Rei Saito in 11 minutes and 59 seconds via referee stop. Nomura used a choke sleeper on Jun. This was basically, the winner of this match would face Shuji and Cyrus in the finals. I like this match. I thought it was good. Paul, I'm just going to say it. I think the Saitos have improved over the course of this tournament.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're good. I don't think they'll ever be, like, good, but they definitely, like, they have absolutely, like, found their style. They found their formula. that works for them. And I think if they're in there with like top level talent like Kento and Nomura, then they can definitely have like a really good match.
All of their matches against high tier talent has generally delivered. And of course also Cyrus, but we'll talk about more about his development in a second, I think. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed the last couple of matches that the Saitos had in this tournament.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I would just compare like this match, for example, with the match that they had with GOA earlier in the year. And I think this is like on another level. Like, I thought that like the match they had with GOA somewhat exceeded my expectations.
I really like that one.
But like I feel like this one, like that, like they just feel like so much more like comfortable now in their roles than they did then. Like then they were still kind of like finding themselves, and I think they've really have like found themselves now. And they also like are like an act that I don't think you can really find anywhere except for All Japan. So I think that really helps them as well, that they're very unique as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I noticed there was like someone had a Saito Brothers sign in the crowd, which I thought was a really nice touch. I just realized, Paul, on the previous show, and we got to talk about this because it's Voodoo Murders related, so I will. Did you see the woman in the crowd during the Suwama and Kono versus Koji Doi match who gave the finger to Suwama?
Yeah, I think I remember that one.
That woman speaks for all of us.
Yeah, that woman, no, definitely. She is not pro Voodoo Murderers. And it's also like, to be fair, also like giving the finger like from the crowd. Like I don't feel like I've really seen that from like a Japanese crowd.
Well, Suwama went right up to her and yelled at her.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you have to find a way if you're still not allowed to like boo. So I think maybe that is just more of a show of like how frustrated Japanese crowds are with like not being allowed to like cheer at every show, that they're actually like starting to just like flip people off instead.
Yes, definitely. But I thought it was just hilarious. The best part of the match.
Some would say that was the only good part of the match.
And then next up, we go to the Junior Battle of Glory final. Atsuki Aoyagi defeated Dan Tamura in 17 minutes and 1 second with the Firebird Splash. They're going all the way with Atsuki. I mean, it is uncommon for the champion to win a tournament. I guess I would have preferred Dan winning, but I'm not particularly upset by this result at all. And I thought this was the best Dan Tamura match I've ever seen and the best performance from him I've ever seen. He was still a little shaky at parts, like he blew that what was going to be a Death Valley bomb off the top rope or something. It sort of just became a slam off the top rope and stuff like that. But still, like, this was very good.
Yeah, no, I really like this one as well. I don't have an issue at all with Atsuki winning here. I think it makes sense if you want to like properly establish him as the ace. I think actually having him hold the belt and giving him the win here makes a ton of sense, because I think that just definitively proves to everyone that like he's the guy. Like, and if you want to like get to the top of the motion, like that's the guy you need to beat definitively as well. So from that perspective, I think the booking here makes sense. As I said, I also agree that this was Dan's best ever singles match. Like, thought that was a really strong performance from him. Yeah, he can still improve his consistency, but I really feel like throughout this, I think what I've been talking about as well throughout this tournament is that, like, just like the Saitos actually in the tag league, is that Dan has really like found a style now that works for him, because he was just too heavily focused on the grappling before, whereas now he is just like a lot more of like a power guy, and I think that works really well if he's in there with a flyer like Atsuki Aoyagi, where like he can, because he is like such a thick boy, he can like base very well for Aoyagi, so Aoyagi can like go a bit more wild on the high flying stuff as well, and then Dan can like kind of throw around Aoyagi as well, and that just results in a really, really good like match structure as we've seen here. But I would say that these guys probably have an even better match in them, which I'm certain we will see at some point soon as well.
I agree. Yeah, they could probably get something better in time, and I think so. I guess it'll be interesting though, like do they do something with Dan right away, or was this just like, oh, we'll send Dan to the finals just because we need to send someone to the finals? Like, do you think he's going to be elevated coming out of this?
I would say he's getting elevated or coming out of this, because like just look at where he is now compared to where he was like 6 months ago. Like 6 months ago, he was just like he was still the young boy in Evolution, just getting pinned like left, right, and center, just getting like beaten up by Suwama like after he turned on them. And then he like goes to Budokan, wins the All Asia titles, and then goes on a really dominant run here in the Junior Battle of Glory. So I think he's already been elevated. And I think that he is also going to stick, because like they are really clearly going for like a refreshment of the junior division. So really kind of building it around Aoyagi, Hayato, and him makes a ton of sense. Now, I don't think he's going to get like a massive push like right away coming out of this. He's probably going to like fade for like a little bit. But I think they've like brought him to a level now where they're going to be like really easily able to like reheat him and like give him a title match like at some point probably in like maybe the first quarter of the year. But I would definitely say like he's getting a title shot at the very latest, like sometime soon after the Champion Carnival.
Paul, you forgot to mention that 6 months ago, Dan was also being put in a dog collar.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I mean, exactly. Like, he was like, he wasn't just like getting beaten up by like voodoo murderers, like he was getting humiliated as well. So I thought this was very clearly like a thing to then like launch him into a push afterwards, which is what they've done as well.
Right. Maybe we should get since dog collar matches are all the rage again, maybe we should get a Dan Tamura versus Suwama dog collar match.
I mean, that's where I thought that whole thing was leading, when they like kept putting him in a dog collar. And then he never even got like a singles match with Suwama, which, I mean, I'm fine if Dan loses that, but like they kind of built that up and then didn't do anything with it really.
Right. And then we move on to what was the Real World Tag League Finals. Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura defeated Shuji Ishikawa and Cyrus in 20 minutes and 37 seconds when Miyahara pinned Ishikawa with the shutdown German suplex. I thought it was interesting that they didn't have Cyrus do another job. They really are eliminating Cyrus's jobs to the point where Ishikawa is taking them in his place. Paul, I thought this was great. I thought this was the best match of the tournament. I thought just the structure of it was awesome. Like Cyrus and Kento started and Cyrus just came out swinging and like beat up Kento. And then, you know, they like Nomura and Miyahara made their comeback and just great. In the last few minutes, I thought one of the strengths also of having Ishikawa take the pin here is that like Ishikawa and Kento could do their thing in like the finishing sequence, which would have been better probably than like a finishing sequence with Cyrus.
Yeah. I don't think I liked quite as much as you did, but I thought it was a really, really strong match. I thought it was better than the first match that they had. I thought just like Cyrus just kind of pummeling like Miyahara and everything. I thought that would I think that always works really well. Just have a big guy just beat up on Kento. Like the same way actually Ishikawa was doing like early on in like Kento's run as an ace. So I think if they kind of like transition because obviously Shuji doesn't want to be in that role anymore. So if they just transition him out of it and put Cyrus in there instead, I think that would work really well. And yeah, if Cyrus just keeps developing at the pace that he's developing at, then I mean, I would almost say that All Japan might not be able to like hold on to him for much longer, because he's probably like getting eyes from bigger promotions relatively soon if like his development keeps up the pace now.
So, and also, that spot where like Cyrus was on his knees and then Nomura jumps off of Cyrus's back to slap Ishikawa, who's sitting up on the top rope, was awesome.
Yeah, that was I'm not sure if I would say this was the best match of the tournament, but that was absolutely the spot of the tournament, because I popped up when I saw that one. That was really cool. I think in general, I probably like Takuya, in the Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura team, I probably liked Nomura more throughout the entire tournament than Kento. Because Kento was still solid, but he also kind of clearly was just kind of coasting a little bit as well and letting Takuya do most of the work.
Yes, early on, although I thought Kento worked hard in this, and I thought Kento really sold hard for Cyrus in this and really tried to make him put over as a monster. Like, and both guys being put over as a monster, because Ishikawa was like no selling the knee and kick combo that Nomura and Miyahara did, and it took two of them to like sort of knock him down before Kento could get him in the shutdown German.
Yeah, no. I mean, definitely mean like in this match, yeah, both worked hard, but I was more talking about like the tournament in general, where I think Kento was like holding back a little bit, which I would assume is also fair. But yeah, now I'm actually curious, like with this booking though, with them winning, and that presumably means they're gonna get a title shot at some point.
Well, yeah, January 2nd.
Yeah, so them being kind of like in both title matches now, because they also announced that Kento Miyahara with Takuya Nomura is also going to be a Triple Crown title match. Do you think they're going to win the titles the night before and then have the singles match, or do you think that more or less guarantees that Suwama and Kono are going to keep the belts?
Well, see, I'm leaning towards Suwama and Kono retaining, but I mean, Kento was talking about how Nomura wants to work more dates in All Japan next year, which I'm all for, obviously. I mean, I think he, probably wants to, do more stuff outside of Big Japan, and who can blame him, even if it is in All Japan, given everything that's going on there. So I could see them winning, absolutely. But I could also see them like just breaking up the team and then them going into the match as like, not on the best of terms. But I also wanted to talk about Cyrus a bit. I mean, he has shown improvement all throughout his run in All Japan, not just in this tournament, although I think he was definitely looking a lot better in the last couple of matches in the tournament and then in the first couple of matches. I'm not sure if I agree that someone else is going to snap him up, because I don't think he's really like if this was like 30 years ago, yeah, but I don't know if bigger American companies would do that. I could see him in ROH, but I don't know if it would be much bigger than that, to be honest with you.
I mean, maybe, but I was also thinking about potentially like other companies in Japan, not necessarily like companies in America.
Oh, I see. Yes. Oh, I could see Impact. But yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, if he gets really like the thing is, and I really do like Cyrus, and I think he's gonna be staying, even though the guy that brought him in the company is leaving, because everyone else seems to like him. Miyahara sells for him. Him and Ishikawa seem to be best buddies, judging by Ishikawa's Twitter feed. So, yeah, I mean, he is 35 years old. And, I think maybe at that age and that size, the bigger guys do break down faster and earlier. And, I mean, I think this was less of an issue in this tournament, but his conditioning isn't the greatest. And I'm not sure how many, 350, 400-pound guys, conditioning improves when they're 35 years old. Like, I don't want to beat him up too much on this stuff. I really like him, and I really want him to stay in All Japan. I just don't necessarily see him getting scooped up or necessarily, becoming a tippy-top guy, but I think he is a great tag team wrestler. And I think that's really what I think his niche could be.
Yeah, and I also think that, he fits in All Japan the best. I think style-wise he fits really well. And that All Japan is obviously the big man promotion in Japan, so I think that really helps him as well. And I mean, what I will say that I think he's easily the best foreigner they've brought in quite a long time. I'm actually trying to think who was the last foreigner that All Japan brought in on a regular basis that I thought was a better worker than him, and I probably have to go back quite a while.
Joel Redman?
Because I can't even think of anyone off the top of my head in the last I don't know, 6 to 8 years really.
Joel Redman?
Maybe. Redman was always solid. I think technically I would say Redman is a better worker, but I never thought he was super he was solid. He was never really super interesting, I want to say. I feel like someone like Cyrus, who's technically not as good of a worker, is more interesting because he has a more unique look and everything. And I don't think Redman Redman just looks very generic white guy wrestler, basically.
Well, I hate to bring him up, but what about Dylan James?
I guess, yeah, right at the end of
you know,
his run, when he had that like amazing like champion carnival before, you know, he tried to like abduct a minor.
Yes, well, that happened before that, I think.
But okay, but like, didn't they stop booking him because like I forgot?
No,
why
it
they
was the
stopped booking
fight
him.
allegedly. He got into a bar fight and lost.
Oh, you know, such a fucking 80s reason to stop booking someone. It's like, oh yeah,
Bill Watts is running All Japan.
it really is like, oh, you stop. I mean, are we sure he isn't? Because I mean, you just look at the Cyruses, or look at the Cyruses. You look at Cyrus, you look at the Saitos, and like that's absolutely things I could see in like Mid-South in the 80s.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. But I mean, that was All Japan in the 80s too.
Yeah, so maybe the spirit of Giant Baba from the 80s is booking All Japan.
Maybe. It would be an improvement. So, I don't know. What do you think of the tournament overall, Paul?
I thought overall, like, enjoyed the tournament. There wasn't really much of anything in there that like blew me away, but I thought it was really, really solid. Definitely in terms of like recent real world tag leagues, like it didn't really hit the highs of some of the like I would say I liked it more than the 2020 and the 2021 version. Don't think I liked it as much as like the 2019 version, but I think they're going in the right direction.
Yes, I think it was better than any of the other pandemic real world tag leagues for sure. But yeah,
like this had more energy. You had at least some shows that had cheering and everything. And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like that at the end of the day, like Kento Miyahara like wins that I don't think is really like super inspiring. Like Takuya is a new winner, but then like Kento obviously isn't. So I would have like liked it more if someone had won it that hadn't really won it before. Although obviously with this kind of like that's why it would have been great like if Ashino hadn't gotten injured and like him and Honda would have won, because that would have been a new winner. But obviously like we couldn't have gotten a new winner with this like lineup, because basically like if you put like between Kento and Tsuji, like that's like, when is like the last time when like neither Kento nor Shuji Ishikawa like won the real world tag league? Like, you probably have to go back for a while.
2018. It was Joe Doring and the aforementioned Dylan James.
Yeah, exactly. So that's already like 4 years ago. That's like 4 like real world tag leagues back. So yeah, I at this point I would have liked like someone like a bit newer to like win it, but obviously that kind of got ruined with Ashino getting injured. So I get why they like basically went back to the safe hands as like their backup plan.
Yep, definitely. And so we'll get into the upcoming cards because they announced a lot of stuff. But unfortunately, Hikaru Sato suffered an injury while wrestling on the Tenru Project show on December 11th. And he's been diagnosed with a lower back contusion, which I believe is like just a big bruise. But obviously you want to rest on that, but lest it cause like more damage. So he hasn't been pulled from the January shows, but he's been pulled from the December shows.
Yeah, I think with a contusion, I think there's a decent chance he will be able to make those shows, because I mean, he still has like 3 weeks essentially, more or less, until then. So I think there's a decent chance he's going to make those, especially if he just rests up for the rest of the year now. But there is an outside chance he will get pulled, but I'm feeling pretty confident that he's going to make that match with Aoyagi. But obviously it's going to be interesting to see like if it still like affects him during the match or not.
Okay, so we move on to Shinkiba First Ring on December 21st, which I'm actually quite looking forward to almost as much as the show on Christmas, because there's going to be cheering, and I think it's going to be, that crowd's going to be very emotional for reasons we'll get into in a second. So we get tag match Ryuki Honda and Masao Hanabata versus Dan Tammer and Hikaru Sato. That's obviously going to be changed, but no announcement has been made. Suwama versus Takao Omori. I would normally say I would be looking forward to it, but not right now. Then Yoshitatsu and Tajiri versus Jun Saito and Rei Saito. Paul, is someone doing the job on their way out of the territory in this?
Yes, it's Yoshitatsu because he's also leaving, right?
Well, Yeah, I will touch on that because, okay, I'll just say it. Sounds like they opted just not to renew Tajiri's contract and told him hit the road. And so, like, why don't they do that to Yoshitatsu?
I don't know. I don't really know what they see, what the value is they see still in Yoshitatsu. Especially, like, since they let Tajiri go for, like, I think we're going to, like, talk about that a bit more on, like, a later bit, like, why Tajiri left. But, yeah, like, especially if that was the reason that Tajiri was, like, basically, like, let go, then, like, I don't really see why you think that Yoshitatsu has any value then either. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But I think it's very safe to say that the Saitos are going to get the pin here over the guy leaving the territory, which is Tajiri. Not Yoshitatsu, unfortunately.
Tajiri seems to like the Saitos, as far as I can tell. So
very obviously, he literally, like, accompanied them for, like, a good chunk of their excursion.
Yeah.
Like, he even took them to the UK and everything. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he just, like, if he even does, like, a stretcher job or something like that. Because especially if he's not really going to be around in Japan all that much.
No. He's got actually a match on January 3rd in Kyushu Pro, but I don't know if he has any bookings in Japan beyond that. And then I believe this is Izanagi's last match. Yeah, it is in All Japan. Izanagi versus Black Menso Ray. And it says it's a single match, 11-minute one-off match. Does that mean it's a one-fall match with an 11-minute time limit? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, Black Menso Ray is going to get the win here.
I wouldn't
even just say that this is Izanagi's last All Japan match, because I don't think it's going to work as Izanagi elsewhere. So it's probably going to be like the last Izanagi match ever.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. All right. Well, Purple Haze is finally dead, Paul.
Yeah, I think now everyone's gone, because we haven't really... Yeah, I think no one really is left in the promotion now that is still, like, regularly working there.
Well, yeah, because Irie hasn't been around in a few months.
Yeah, because Irie has been busy with, like, stuff and, like, Strong Hearts and everything. So.
And he's traveling again, because I know he's like he's wrestling in Canada in January.
And he's going to Germany in March for 16 Carat again. So, yeah, Purple Haze is truly and fully gone now.
Yeah. Paul, do you think that, I don't know, I mean, he's only 37. Do you think they should, like, bring back Yohei Nakajima because of the direction the junior division is going in now?
Yeah, I mean, he's still on that, like, self-imposed suspension back from he was, like, supposed to team with the mysterious Black Tiger 7. So maybe now is the time to, like, bring him back from that suspension. And no, I also feel like Yohei Nakajima, like, all kidding aside, Yohei Nakajima fits him better than Black Menso Ray in that current junior division. I mean, it's also, like, notable that he hasn't really done anything within the junior division recently. Like, he was just teaming with Izanagi, and if Izanagi is now gone...
So, like, that's one less comedy guy. Like, what's he going to do? Wrestle Masao Inoue in opening matches on every show?
Yeah, especially if, like, Takao Omori isn't really doing all that much of that stuff either. There's really, like, nothing... Like, I guess maybe team with ATM it would be, like, his one thing to do at this point.
Yeah.
But, like, ATM isn't around regularly, so
Nope.
I think, like, yeah, and I really enjoyed him when he wrestled as Yohei Nakajima.
He needs better gear, though.
Like, and the few times he has gone, like, serious as Black Menso Ray as well, I've enjoyed him as well. So I think he would really fit well within the, like, current style of the junior division. So I think that's a really good idea.
And then next up, we have a Junior Battle of Glory 2022 special tag match. It is Atsuki Aoyagi and Hokuto Omori versus Rising Hayato and Ryo Inoue. I guess I could see them starting a new storyline with Hokuto in this match, or maybe that waits till the new year. But either Hokuto or Inoue is taking the fall here, I think.
Yeah, I think this might be, like, the time to, like, start kind of the rebuild for Hokuto Omori, so I could very easily see him get his win back over Inoue here, especially because they have been building that up for so much. And I feel like there is a point that they've actually named this a Junior Battle of Glory special tag match and just haven't, like, said this is, like, a tag match in general. So I feel like that probably has some sort of, like, significance.
Yeah. And then I'm really looking forward to this one. Singles match, Shuji Ishikawa versus Yuma Anzai. I think this will be great. Ishikawa will give him a lot. I don't think they're going to do a shock win like beating a former Triple Crown champion in a singles match in Shinkiba first ring, but I am really looking forward to it.
I mean, that was actually going to be my question. Like, do you think he has a chance? Because I don't think his chances are 0%. Like, with any other rookie, I would say he has a 0% chance of winning this match. But
I think he has.
Don't think so.
If this is a 15-minute time limit match, maybe they just go with the time limit.
I could see them do that, but I mean, it's also like for me, like based on the fact that they're just like that Shuji Ishikawa doesn't really seem to have kind of any interest in getting pushed anymore. So, I mean, I would maybe save it, for something bigger than just like Shinkiba, than just a random Shinkiba first ring show. But it would obviously be a shock if he wins this, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that, like, I would actually give him like, I don't know, like a 10-12% chance of winning this match, which feels insanely high for someone that has only been wrestling for like a couple of months.
That's true. I think that's a reasonable. Those are reasonable odds for an Anzai victory. And then this is almost certainly going to be the main event, even though the actual match order hasn't been announced. Special tag match featuring Kento Miyahara, Jake Lee, Yuma Aoyagi, and Naoya Nomura. But the thing is, the combination of the teams will be announced on a special lottery that day. But Paul, this is pro wrestling, so I have a very strong feeling that they already know what the combination of the teams are going to be, and I think it's going to be Yuma and Naoya versus Kento and Jake. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely we're going to like see like Kento and Jake team here, unless they want to like have Kento pin Jake one last time. I could see that happen. But
I think
otherwise, I feel
Jake.
like Kento and Jake teaming like one last time. I feel like, because I don't even know how many people remember that like Kento and Jake used to be like a tag team when they were coming up. Like they were the original like nucleus of Next Stream. So I feel like putting them together like one last time, I think is like a nice thing for like Jake on his way out.
Well, Paul, it's funny you bring up them as the original nucleus of Next Stream. Because if you'll forgive me a minute for using this term, but this is really leaning into a lot of All Japan lore, featuring two guys, one that's leaving the company and one that's left the company already.
So you think? So do you think we're going to get a curtain call situation here where all four guys will just hug it out afterwards?
Well, that's very possible, but it just seems interesting that they're still leaning into the lore when they've lost 50% of the guys in the match.
Yeah. Although they're very clearly trying to bring back like one of the guys that has left.
That's what I'm gonna say. Like, what do you like? And he's on every show in January. So what are your odds that Naoya Nomura is coming out in a tracksuit on January 2nd at the beginning of the show?
So I am kind of cautious to make predictions for that, because I will fully admit that I cannot be emotionally like I cannot look at this issue like from like a very like emotion-free like stance, basically. Like there is just like that part of me that just really desperately wants him to come back, because I think that's such a good story, that's such a feel-good story after everything that's happened, and it's just a thing that makes sense to me for like both sides. So I would really but then in terms of like how much would I actually think that will happen, I will say that I would probably say it's about 50-50. Because it's very obvious that all Japan wants it to happen. I think it just really depends whether or not Naoya wants to come back full time. And if he doesn't, like even if he's just there as a regular but not as like a contracted guy, like I think that's already great. Like again, it is just depends if he wants to do that full-time All Japan schedule again. So, and if he does, then I will fully expect that he is going to like come out there on January in the tracksuit, and he has resigned.
I was going to say that All Japan full-time schedule these days isn't exactly very onerous. I
mean, it is not, but it's still like different to like come like touring to like all the like random small towns that All Japan still runs, rather than just, you know, comment for like the big shows that they do in Tokyo and then otherwise go to your like like fake MMA basement and do some shoot style there.
Well, Yuma has vowed to pull Naoya out of that basement. So, I mean, that could be part of it. Because the next day, or on the 26th after the Christmas show, Yuma, and also Ryo Inoue, they're going to capture for their show. And Yuma and Jake are teaming. So, I don't know. All I'll say is
I really hope that like he comes back, because it just would be like such a waste of his talents to just be a part-timer.
Also add that if Naoya comes out in that tracksuit on January 2nd, I'm going to cry.
Oh, absolutely. And then it just really, like, then it actually becomes more interesting who actually should be the next Triple Crown champion. Because to me, right now it is obviously Yuma Aoyagi out of everyone on that roster. But if Naoya comes back, then that becomes a bit more of like a really interesting question who you actually put that title on first.
If Naoya comes back, I think you still have to go with Yuma, because Yuma has been loyal, and I'm worried about him in the long term. Honestly, I'll talk more about that later. But like, I hope they have told Yuma and given him a date that he's getting that title. Like, because I said this in my column I wrote about Jake leaving. I don't begrudge Yuma if he leaves in 2024 because he hasn't won the Triple Crown yet at all. Also, I think it's just a smart business move. You got to make him the guy. And at this point, Yuma has blown past Naoya in the charisma department. That's also, I think, a major factor.
I think you can kind of like determine it as well, like based, because this is a Shinkiba show, so they're going to have cheering. I think you can kind of base that as well on like what the actual like crowd reactions to this are going to be. Because just based on the reactions Yuma has gotten here in the past, like, I think they would be just incredibly stupid not to put it on him. I'm just curious because they probably want like to give Naoya something to like lure him back. And I wonder if like a promise of like a Triple Crown one in 2023 is a part of that deal if they bring him back.
They could have him win the Champion Carnival and then Yuma win the Triple Crown a little later.
Yeah, you could probably do something like that, but
also I
think, like having both and being able to keep both is going to like just be a massive boon to the promotion overall.
Absolutely. So that I think is going to be very emotional and very important match, or could be a very important match in the future of All Japan. So we then move over to December 25th, Chris Xmas Mania X at Korakuen Hall. We have Shuji Ishikawa, Chihiro Hashimoto, and Yu versus Suwama, Mayumi Ozaki, and Maya Yukihi, which was already announced. It was the first match on the show announced. Paul, did you see the team name that Shuji and Team 200 KG have come up with?
No, I haven't seen that team name yet.
It's Team 333 kilograms.
So wait, so you will, so 303 kilograms. So you're willing to tell me that Shuji Ishikawa only weighs 103 kilograms?
No, sorry,
unless like one of the other two has
333.
Sorry,
333.
Oh, 333. Okay, yeah, that I think is very reasonable. I think Shuji Ishikawa going down to 100 kilograms was never realistic. So I think going with like the only other version you can do there, which is 333, I think that works really well. But did you see the angle actually or the video package that they showed on the finals night between Suwama and 200 kilograms?
It was so good because it's funny because Sendai Girls had a show the same day in that Osaka show at Edion number 2. So that's why they were all able to film that there.
Yeah, it was funny when they had like the Sendai Girls trainees try to stop Suwama and he's just like legitimately just towering over all of them.
Yes, it was just so dumb, but it was so funny at the same time. And
also like Suwama's like amazing divorce dad dressing style as well, especially now as a voodoo murderer.
Absolutely. Did you see the shirt he was wearing at like the press conference?
It's like, I really wonder, like, I'm really curious where he actually goes and, like, buys the stuff. Because we've talked about that he has divorced the dad energy, but, like, as far as I know, he's not actually divorced. Like, I think he's actually happily married.
No, I know. Well, I mean, he's just trying to play up being, like, a sleazy heel, but, you know. Anyway, so next up, we have, this was originally announced as Takao Mori versus X, but we just found out who X was, And no, it's not Satoshi Kojima. It's Manabu Soya and Get Wild Explodes. I think this will be a good match, although I think it's somewhat ominous at the same time. Paul, what do you think?
I'm looking forward to it, but yeah, it is kind of a very curious decision that it is Manabu Soya. I mean, I would probably say that if Soya is actually coming back, like if this is in any way like an indication maybe that Soya might be coming back to All Japan, I feel that that's probably like a net positive for him, because he obviously was just like the lowest heavyweight in Congo who was just taking like falls left and right.
Oh, I don't think Soya is coming back to All Japan. I think he's going to make appearances in All Japan. But I think that I'll just say it, like, if I don't want All Japan going any closer with Noah at this time with what's going on over there. I mean, obviously working with New Japan has its own pitfalls, but I think they're better off just working with New Japan. Paul, how do you feel about that?
I also feel like you can't really work with both of them right now, because there is just kind of like increasing kind of like competition between the two. Like Noah and New Japan are still somewhat like they aren't really like an all-out like open war with each other right now. Although like given some of the things that like Joe wrote about on the Patreon, that might be something that might be more likely in the future, depending on certain things. But like I really feel like we're getting close to like a stage where you probably will have to pick like if you're going to work with Cyberfight or if you're going to work with Bushiroad.
Well, I mean, they still have a talent exchange, right? Like there's going to be New Japan talent on that Muto retirement show and some of the other ones. But it was always going to be a collision course given the money that's, Cyberfight is investing in all of this. They you couldn't keep them from falling apart forever. And when I guess Noah and New Japan first sort of got back together, as it were, obviously like things were a lot shakier just business-wise for both companies. And New Japan has improved. And obviously Bushiroad wants to keep them and Stardom the market leaders in Japan. So it's just an inevitable collision course.
Yeah. So like given that like people like Nosawa and Kashin like popping up on All Japan shows at the same time as Yuji Nagata, I don't know, that makes like All Japan like an interesting battleground promotion in a way at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean there's also problems, I think, like with Noah is like who's going to come into All Japan, or who's going to come from All Japan to go to Noah? I don't see Kaido coming. Obviously, Nakajima is a complete no-go coming into All Japan, and probably Kento's not going to come into Noah. It's just so limiting. Like, is Keno going to come in and were we getting Voodoo Murders versus Congo, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like there isn't really much to gain for like All Japan with working really kind of either of them at the moment. I mean, I have like in a tag team sense, I've enjoyed Yuji Nagata a lot more, but it's also not like that's like an amazing get either. And then what might have happened is that they might have like poached Jake from them. So like from that perspective, if I'm All Japan, I would be a bit more hesitant to work with like All Japan going forward, especially given that you are developing some younger guys right now. You're also like developing some younger Japanese guys, which especially is something that New Japan needs. So,
well, yeah, but
again,
they've also
needs
put
at the same
Nagata
time as well. So I'm like, if I'm All Japan, I'm very like cautious to get like too much into bed with either promotion right now.
Well, they've also put Nagata with their super rookie, which seems like a dangerous move. But I don't know. I just think, okay, fine. They don't make a stink about Jake leaving, and you get Nagata and some other talent on big shows. I just think it fits better together, those two companies, than All Japan with Noah at this time.
Yeah, I also think they fit better style-wise as well. Like, I don't think like the Noah style really fits all that well with the All Japan guys.
No, but I will say, look, if we're going to do Noah and All Japan, can we get Kento versus Hideki? Can we?
I mean, I'm really in favor of that one. Like, I feel like like if you're gonna get anyone, that's one to get. But like, is Hideki even signed to Noah?
I don't know.
Isn't he like technically still a freelancer?
Probably, but there's a lot of freelancers in Noah, I think, actually.
Yeah, true. And maybe there might be some that might be like joining like sometime next year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So next up, Yoshitatsu versus Naoya Nomura. Another body sacrificed at the altar of getting Naoya back into the company.
Unless he has already told them to fuck off. Which, if like, here's the thing, okay? If Yoshitatsu wins this, which I fully do not expect.
No.
Like, even if Naoya hasn't signed, I don't expect Yoshitatsu to win.
No.
But if on the off chance Yoshitatsu wins this match, I think that's a 100% guarantee that Naoya told them that he's not going to resign.
Yes, that is an absolute guarantee. So next up, we have a match called the Carbell Cup Scramble Singles Match. Now I'm wondering if there's some sort of Carbell sponsored tournament coming up. And we have Rising Hayato versus Kaz Hayashi. And I'm really looking forward to this. I want to see how Kaz works with Hayato.
And the one thing that really bothers me is, like, why are you calling this a scramble if it's a singles match? It's not what a scramble is.
Well, maybe it has a different connotation in Japan or Japanese in the translation. But yes, yeah, you think probably of like a GCW opening match or something.
Yeah, so I'm really curious then what the Carbell Cup is actually going to be. I mean, given who is in this match, like, is it going to be another junior tournament, which would be weird because you just did a junior tournament? I don't know. Like, but obviously we don't know anything about this so far.
You could do a junior tag tournament, I suppose.
I mean, maybe you just rename the junior tag Battle of Glory to like the Carbell Cup and like have Carbell give you some money for that. I think I'm actually found it weird that I haven't really been more like wrestling promotions that have just like basically sold off like tournament names to like sponsors. I know that they do that kind of for like the G1, where it's the G1 presented by Axe basically, but I'm curious that no one has ever actually like just straight up just sold up like the name of the tournament and just make a little bit more money, because it's not like, especially for like lower level, like I don't know anyone will get angry if it's like no longer like the junior Battle of Glory, the junior tag Battle of Glory, but instead it's like the Carbell Cup. I don't think anyone would really care, and you make some money doing that.
Local produce market sponsors Real World Tag League.
I mean, did you see the quotes from Hideki Sekin, Shrek? Where he's getting married and he actually wants to be both a wrestler and a farmer. Like, he wants to like produce his own like brand of like produce basically. So like basically you could just make him like the new like produce based wrestler and like have him come in whenever they like go back to Savama's hometown to that market.
Right. Produce is taking over. It used to be rice, now it's produce. And then next up we have a special 8-man tag match. Ryuki Honda, Yusuke Kodama, Masao Hanabata, and the returning Minoru Tanaka, I guess subbing in for Shotaro Ashino, but he has beef with these guys. Jun Saito, Rei Saito, Taru, and Toshizo, who has finally returned. He wasn't around for the Real World Tag League or Junior Battle of Glory. 6-man tag team match. Now this one's Tajiri's last match in All Japan. So it'll be Tajiri, Black Mensuray, and Toru Yano versus Yuji Nagata, Dan Tamura, and Hikaru Sato. Not exactly the best use of all of the talent in this available here.
No, not really. But I mean, it's incredibly obvious who's taking the pin here, so whatever.
Yep. And then another match I think we'll be looking forward to, Hokuto Omori, Ryo Inoue, and Yuma Anzai versus Yuto Nakashima, Raihoe Oiwa, and Kosei Fujita. Paul, I could also see Hokuto finally getting his win here.
I mean, it's definitely the most likely person to get a win here. So I could actually also see Yuma Anzai get the pin here as well, but I think like this might be another one.
Does New Japan let Anzai pin one of their young lions? I don't know.
Probably not, but yeah, I would say that Hokuto is like the most likely one to get the win here. But I'm actually looking forward to this match, just like based on like the last time like the New Japan, like Young Lions came into All Japan, that match really like over-delivered. So I kind of expect this one to over-deliver as well.
Absolutely. It'll be heated. It'll be awesome. And then what I probably would assume would be the last main event, because someone's last match in the company, Kento Miyahara, Atsuki Aoyagi, Taichi, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru versus Jake Lee, Yuma Aoyagi, Sanada, and Bushi. Strange. Jake Lee is facing off against people that some are speculating are going to be his future stablemates.
Hey, are you a believer in Jake-gun?
No, but it'll probably be like Taichi-gun or Zach-gun, and then Jake will be like along for the ride. I mean, I don't know how likely that is, but it seems like something they've planted. I don't know. I mean, we don't actually technically know if he's actually going to New Japan. You know?
Yeah, we just all assume that he's going to New
Japan. There's an X
because
on
it's
that
the most
Noah
likely
show.
one.
Yeah. It would make the most sense for him to get up and leave over, to be honest.
I mean, maybe they're also just going to make him like, like the fifth guy or whatever, or like how many members are there now in LIJ? Like whatever, he's just going to be maybe like the newest guy in LIJ.
He doesn't have enough charisma.
And if he just teams with Sanada.
LIJ, well, you could say Sanada, but I mean, Sanada has a certain kind of charisma that his stoicism is more charismatic than Jake's stoicism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like for now, that is obviously like fully like. For now, that is still like no one really knows for sure that he's coming in. It's just that it seems like the most likely version, but I don't think it's like I don't think he has like actually like signed a contract or anything like that yet.
No. And then, so really quick, in the January 2nd, Hikaru Sato versus Atsuki Aoyagi PWF Junior title, Suwama and Kono versus Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura for the World Tag Team titles, the New Year's Battle Royal featuring Masanobu Fuchi. Then you've got Minoru Suzuki, Kaz Hayashi, Mitsuya Nagai, and Naoya Nomura as the announced outsiders. January 3rd, the Takao Mori and Masao Inoue versus Nosawa Rongai and Kendo Kashin. Paul, what are the what are the chances you put Nosawa and Kendo Kashin winning?
Let me see. I don't have a coin on me right now. Otherwise, I would just flip it and determine it based on that way. Because I think that's really it. Like at this point, it's just like basically just flip a coin and you have like an equal chance to like win, essentially.
Well, I mean, Nosawa is retiring. I mean, allegedly retiring. So I will say that Omori and Inoue retain because, it's not like Nosawa has a problem putting anyone over or anything like that. He'd probably do the job to Omori. And then Kento Miyahara versus Takuya Nomura for the Triple Crown. Yuji Nagata will be on this show. He's not on the second. And then you've got Suzuki Nagai and Naoya Nomura again. On January 15th at 2AW Square. This one looks a lot of fun. Black Menso Ray and Kaiji Tamato versus Oji Shiba and Takuro Niki. And then on January 11th, you've got Yoshitatsu and Oji Shiba versus Dan Tamura and Hikaru Sato. So Shiba working a few matches in January. And then you have Takao Mori versus Masao Inoue. I don't know if that gives anything away. And then singles match, Black Menso Ray versus Black Tiger. Now, I was wondering if this was Black Tiger 7. No, Paul, it's the Black Tiger we got back in September and October. Or
That's
August.
like the one time I would have preferred to see Nosawa in a singles match. That Black Tiger was just the absolute shits. Oh, Jesus Christ.
And also, February 4th announced Atsushi Onita during the February tour in a show that in a venue I don't think they've ever run before, but it's way, way on the western edge of Tokyo in Hachioji, which is like not in the special wards. And then finally, Paul, Kotaro Suzuki's coming back. And he's going to be on a couple shows in January, which is interesting because I thought he was DDT bound, and he probably still is because I think he's been announced to a DDT show. But you got to do Atsuki versus Kotaro, right? Like, that's what this is building to.
Yeah, I think, like, very easily, like, just bring in another, like, established veteran and just, like, feed him to Atsuki, I think is, like, the way to go here to, like, that way you also keep, like, other challengers fresh as well, and there's really, like, nothing, like, Kotaro loses here, and I think Atsuki just, like, gains a lot by beating Kotaro.
I mean, I'm not sure it'll be as spectacular as Hayato versus Atsuki, but I think it will be the best, most well-rounded match that Atsuki's had in his reign.
Yeah, I think like Atsuki also, like, he is already really good, but he's still young. So I think he can learn a lot from working with someone like as good as Kotaro as well. So it can only help him.
All right, so that is all of the upcoming shows for All Japan. Paul, it's time. Do you know what time it is?
Vader time?
Not quite. It's time to talk about Jake. Paul, what are your thoughts?
Let me just reminisce about like all of the like great memories we've made with Jake along the way. Just, him starting out as such a like hopeful young boy in the promotion, getting his first push for Next Dream, getting horrifically injured, coming back, getting his first push towards the main event, failing horribly, getting pushed back down, winning a tag title, getting horrifically injured, coming back, being pushed to the main event again, failing horribly, turning heel, getting the Triple Crown, having a okay reign, getting injured, coming back, winning the title, getting geeked out even more, losing in the tag league, and then leaving the promotion. What a fucking weird run this was overall.
Yes, and I mean, you might have even sounded more negative on him than I am. But I think, look, I just can't. I know that some people really feel very passionately and are upset about this, and I just can't be. Like, for them, like, this is what Naoya Nomura was for me, that Jake is to them. Like, I was completely gutted when Naoya left. Not to mention I had to go like almost 2 years with like no medical updates, being like, is this guy ever going to wrestle again? That was very, upsetting to me as a fan. I mean, there were moments like, and I've written this many times, there were always those moments where I thought Jake was on the cusp of finally putting it all together, including as, a heel in Total Eclipse. I really liked that match back in June between Kento and Jake, where Jake finally beat Kento in a Triple Crown match. I thought that was their best match since before the pandemic. Probably like, the January 2020 match. I defended Jake in like 2016 and 2017, where people thought he was not good in the ring. I thought he was, not top tier, but he was on the direction to be. He's had some of the best matches in All Japan since like 2017. Yeah, it's 5 years. He's had some of the best matches, both in tags and in singles matches, especially those ones against Kento. I'm struggling to think of a great Jake singles match, like a truly great Jake singles match that's not against Kento. And I can't really think of one. Thought when he like that Triple Crown match against Suwama, where, and did a horrible number in Korakuen, even well below what the pandemic restrictions were at the time. Thought that was okay. And like, I don't know. I mean, just like, he clearly does have his fans in Japan. There's no question about that. But I mean, even if he is the number 2 most popular wrestler in that company, the Aoyagi brothers, at least Yuma, are like on the cusp of surpassing him, or already have. Just judging by some of the few crowd reactions we've gotten recently.
I think it's very easy to say that like the Aoyagis have like eclipsed them. Probably both, like definitely Yuma, maybe even both of them. I think you can also see that just based on like the amount of merch that they're getting as well, and like the amount of like stuff they're getting like put in by like All Japan, like things that like Jake was never really like I feel like there's more like institutional support already for the Aoyagis than there ever really was for Jake. Jake always felt like a guy that they were pushing because they didn't really have anyone else to push. Well, so they pushed him instead.
Yes and no, because I think, yes, I mean, back when Jake was getting pushed, the roster is even technically thinner than it is today. There was definitely less young talent. I think you always had to give Jake a push to the top and try it out. Like, I don't think they were wrong to ever do it. because I mean he could deliver match quality wise, even if he wasn't able to clearly get on quite to Kento's level, popularity wise. So I don't think pushing Jake was a mistake. It's just that he never, like here's the thing. You can point to a lot of bad luck. You can point to Suwama getting COVID, so you had that convoluted match where Jake finally won the Triple Crown. You can point to the fact that he obviously gets the push during the pandemic and all of these other things. Like you talked about, he blew out his knee just on the cusp. Wasn't it him and Naoya just won the world tag titles for the first time together, and then he blew out his knee?
Yep, I think, basically that's what happened. Like they finally, because that really felt like that was really like when felt the promotion was getting behind both of them and really starting to give them a serious push, and then he just immediately, like that whole title reign got derailed, and when he blew out his knee, and then when he came back, they kind of like changed course on that as well. But I think then he like left Nextstream and kind of like started going down his own path.
And I think even Naoya was sort of spinning his wheels for a bit after that tag team had to end. So yeah, I mean that was some missed opportunities, I guess, for both men. Although felt like they were, I mean everyone thought Nomura was going to win that 2020 Champion Carnival and everything like that. So they were pushing them at the same time, like right, like let's not forget, like Jake and Kento both had 2 Triple Crown matches in 2019, but so Naoya and Kento also had 2 incredible Triple Crown matches in 2019. I know, like, you could say that they sort of positioned Jake as the top rival to Kento, even more so than Nomura. But, I mean, by 2020, like, even right before the pandemic, to me, like, Yuma had made so many strides that I was like, this guy's going to surpass Jake in a very short amount of time, and he did. I thought as just a character, the charisma, and I suppose, in the in-ring work too. I think Jake arrived at a higher level of in-ring work, definitely a lot sooner than Yuma. But once you got into 2020, like Yuma was catching up fast. My point is, this isn't a disaster. Jake did all he could achieve in All Japan, and it just, I don't know, like, I understand why some people are going to feel like there's a void in there. Like I said, that's how I felt. I felt like when Nomura left, Nomura got injured, and, I'd heard he had herniated cervical discs, and that's a serious injury. So I knew he was going to be out for a while, although I didn't realize he was going to be out for as long as he was. So I get it, but I don't know, Paul, like I can't feel anything like sadness about this at all. Like, I guess it'd be technically better if he stayed, but even then it's questionable because, like, what do you do with him?
Yeah,
right?
No,
you got to make Yuma.
All Japan is doomed. No, it's like just like Noah isn't doomed, All Japan isn't doomed either. It is obviously a loss to lose Jake, but I don't feel like he was. I don't think he was a complete failure as a draw, but I don't think he ever was like a great draw or anything like that.
So here's, I should add, I've never called Jake's title reign a bomb. I called it lackluster. Now, there is definitely some bomb elements. Like I said, that Suwama Triple Crown match in Korakuen after the Royal Road tournament. Horrible number. Less than 500 people. And, like, the capacity then, I think, was 700. That's not good. That's big Japan level almost. Now, he did well in those Oda Ward shows against Kento. But again, that's Kento. And if Jake's going to be a truly top guy, he needs to draw against other people other than Kento. So that's why, I don't think it was a total disaster, but definitely, I don't know, just the signs were there. Could Jake be his own man without Kento? And I wasn't convinced that he could be. Like, he always had. I feel like
that's actually ultimately, that is really Jake's biggest downfall. Is the fact that he has great chemistry with Kento, but not necessarily really anyone else, and that he just, like, everything he does only ever really works when it is in relation to Kento Miyahara. I think the biggest indictment of that is if you just look at, like, the just, like, graveyard of just failed Jake Lee stables. Like especially, like, stables that started off really hot. Like, if you look at, like, back when Sweeper formed, that was really hot for a while and then just fizzled out. Like the same thing when like Jin like started and that was really hot and then it fizzled out. Like especially that one I'm angry about because I love literally everyone. I loved everyone in that stable. Like if you just look at that one, like that is just like that is a Paul Feld stable. Like that's Koji Iwamoto, Naoya Nomura, Ayato Yoshida, Fuminori Abe, and Jake Lee. That was like, and when that like I think that was kind of like when that fizzled out really was like the moment when I kind of like turned on Jake Lee. Was like, if he can't make this stable work with this like amount of talent, then I feel like he just isn't like a guy that is like at the top of the promotion. Like he's probably better as like a gatekeeper, which I feel like All Japan was gonna like put him in if he wasn't leaving.
Right. Although to be fair to Jin, you had Nomura's injury and the pandemic, and that did lead to a really great Lee and Iwamoto All Asia tag title run though.
That was really fun, and then it led obviously like into like Jake turning on Iwamoto and then forming Total Eclipse. But again, Total Eclipse, another example of like a stable that like started off really hot and then literally just fizzled out.
Everybody like I still remember the reaction, like just chatting with people in like Slack, and they were like all shocked, and they're like, "Wow, that was an awesome angle and everything like that," and it felt hot, and Jake completely transformed his look, which is funny because now we know why Jake didn't bother changing his tights after Total Eclipse disbanded.
Yeah, because he wants to like flip them out for like his ever like whatever like Taichigun or like LIJ tights or whatever he's going to like be wearing going forward. Maybe he's going to be like the House of Torture hunter, Jake Lee.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess those are our feelings on Jake. I guess, to us, Paul, I don't want to speak for you, but like Naoya was always the guy, and he was always the guy to me in like 2017, 2018, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the moment like Naoya started to break through to me, Jake was like completely like on the back burner essentially. And I also feel like that was the idea of the promotion as well. And then obviously Naoya gets hurt and they're kind of like, well, I guess we have to go with Jake now because I feel like Jake was always going to turn. Like maybe he was going to get the Triple Crown run as well. But like I feel like or the original plan was probably for Jake to turn on Naoya and not Koji Iwamoto.
It's funny though that Naoya also turned out to be a better heel than Jake.
Yeah, but that is also very funny. Yeah. So no, like to me, like if what happens here is Jake Lee leaves and we get Naoya Nomura back, then I think that is actually a net positive for the promotion.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you on that. So, Paul, let's assume it's New Japan because I don't see Noah, and I don't even know what the hell he would do there. But I could see him on a role in New Japan. They're going to repackage him. He's going to look different. Maybe they'll give him a new haircut and obviously new gear. Without even getting into a debate, and I think Suzuki Gun would be most likely. I've seen everyone say everything from LIJ, which I actually think is like the least likely, to Bullet Club in general, to House of Torture. But Paul, what's he going to do? I don't think he gets any higher than Sonata is now.
I think Sonata level is an absolute best case scenario for him. I don't see him get higher than that. Like New Japan recently has been a bit more willing to push guys that aren't like people that come from the dojo, but just historically speaking, there is just a limit to people that aren't like New Japan trainees, like how much they can achieve within the promotion. But I also feel like the two people that have actually like broken through that glass ceiling are two people that had already shown like outstanding like things at their previous promotions. So I'm talking about Ibushi and Shingo. Like both of them were like bona fide draws and like DDT and Dragon Gate respectively. And I don't think like Jake is even close to the level of like established star or like draw that either man was in their previous promotion. So to me, Sonata level is like the absolute maximum ceiling for him. Like I think that's also like if everything goes right, like he gets over with the crowd and everything, then I think he has a chance to get Sonata level. To me, he's probably more like even below that, like regardless of like where he ends up.
I mean, how does he even get over? Like, I don't know. I mean, you cannot, like, obviously New Japan has a certain ability. They have like the resources to make people into stars or at least enhance their characters. But I don't know. Like, I'm sort of curious to see what Jake looks like because I don't know. I'm just so used to this. Well, the several different versions of Jake, I suppose, that we've had in All Japan. Like, it would take, I know, I still think it's the New Japan Star Machine is not enough to take Jake to that next level. It wasn't for Sonata, you know, and I think that's probably the best comp to Jake.
Yeah, no, I think Sonata is the best comp. Like, and yeah, as I said, like even the Bushi Road Machine, which just like, I mean, just look at what they did to like Stardom and like a year and a half. And it just completely just massively transformed the entire promotion to just be like a really kind of a bit of a juggernaut now. Whereas they brought in Sonata and they did try and push Sonata, like, because they did try and make Sonata and it just didn't really work. And I just don't see that, like, because we've seen pretty much everything of Jake, I think that we can see. Like, I don't think there's any kind of like hidden potential in Jake that he just hasn't brought out yet. So even if you just like improve his like presentation and everything with like all of the money that Bushi Road has, like it's gonna help him, but I don't think it's gonna like uncover some like hidden side of Jake that wasn't before seen, that is like gonna push him to a level where he can like is like a realistic like challenger for like someone like Kazuchika Okada. Like, I don't feel like he can even get close to that level at all.
No, I guess I will give Jake credit. I think he has the potential to work hard, so I think he will be working very hard when he debuts, if it is into New Japan. So I will be curious to watch that. I'm going to watch it because like I really like, this is like one of the most interesting jumps just in terms of like how we conceive of him and how, I don't know, because you know, not everyone, a lot of people don't watch All Japan, right? And so I'm generally curious about what some of the reactions to this guy are gonna be.
Yeah, and I am also curious because we talked about it earlier. Like, we're really like all of his great matches were with Kento, and obviously the New Japan roster is pretty talent rich. So if he has any potential to have a great match with someone other than Kento, then the New Japan roster is like the perfect spot to do that. And if he can't do it there, then he can literally do it nowhere.
I think he could probably have a pretty damn good match with Okada, I think, and Tanahashi. I'm trying to think. Well, probably Ospreay, because Ospreay can do it with anyone. I bet you with Shingo. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people there that can have great matches with him, I think. So maybe, you know, you can never say never in professional wrestling, especially when a wrestler changes their environment, because that's definitely happened to wrestlers that have totally exceeded expectations when they've gotten a change of scenery. But I don't know. I've just seen enough of Jake over these years that, you know, I don't know. Maybe we'll be all egg on our faces in a year's time, but, you know, this is, you know, everyone knows how we feel about him. Like, I don't know what else to say about Jake. And do you have anything else to say about Jake at this point? Because I do not. Yeah,
I just think that it's good for him to just get some fresh air, basically. Like, I think it was desperately needed for him because there was nothing else. There was nothing left for him to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we have two other departures that we will touch on. Let's start with Izanagi because I have more to say about Tajiri, I think. Paul, I'm actually surprised he hasn't left yet, but the reason he's left is hilarious.
I mean, I actually, when I saw him being announced that he's leaving, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That doesn't surprise me at all. Like, I actually fully expected him to leave, like, at the end of the year either way to, like, go full-time with Osaka Pro. But the reason that Joe wrote about, like, why he actually left is that is objectively hilarious. That's the reason. Like, that's the camel that broke the straw's back. That's the straw, whatever, like, you know what I mean. Like, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, is that guy. Okay. Like, do we want to talk about it, or do we want to get people to go to the Patreon?
Well, we shouldn't give away someone's Patreon, but I will say that this is why it just augurs very badly for working with Noah. Right?
Yeah,
this has already happened.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like Izanagi is a big loss, but that is still like that's such an immediate reaction to that specific person is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can all figure out who that is. It's very obvious. And so Tajiri, I guess, Izanagi, yes, not a loss because he's definitely been downgraded in the comedy role with Black Mansoray in the opening matches. But a very solid hand, has a win over Kento Miyahara, has scored, plenty of upsets. Was like that team with Zeus, he was like a mid-card fucking workhorse, man, holding that thing together at times. Like, he really deserves, I think, respect as that veteran. And I will miss him. I will definitely miss him. Tajiri is interesting because God knows this man has driven me crazy. But in some ways, I think that there could be some long-term negative implications from him leaving. Mainly that he was the dojo trainer, the head dojo trainer, and he's pretty damn good at it given the talent that they've debuted over the last few years.
Yeah, I think that's probably like the biggest negative fallout here. Also, especially since he was like trying to like get people to leave with him as well. I mean, he's failed so far, but it is curious like who of the people that he trained he might still have like an in with, and if he just tried like when he was leaving and he's like now he's just done trying with that, or if that might be something that he like might like hit up people in like a couple of months, maybe if their booking isn't really satisfactory, like if they might be willing to listen to him then. So I think that might be a story that we haven't really seen the conclusion of yet. Although obviously Tajiri might also not be around in Japan all that much because he seems to be like living in Malaysia now. But again, that might not be forever either.
So, like the Malaysia thing, I'll say this. If Tajiri is going to Malaysia full-time to train wrestlers there, that's a huge boon to the Malaysian wrestling scene.
Yeah, that is an absolutely massive improvement. That's probably like the best guy they've had train people there, like probably ever, because I don't really know of anyone else that like was like training people in Malaysia.
Paul, have you ever watched any Malaysian pro wrestling?
I think I've seen like one or two matches, but I always remember like there was like really like solid stuff, but nothing like blow away really.
Well, I mean, I've watched a bit of that like APAC company who have money behind them because the production values are pretty decent, and they're like they're bigger shows because they just had a show that Tajiri was on, and they brought in Maki Ito and Yuki Kamifuku, and they brought in Steph Delander, the former Persia Parada, and like the wrestlers there obviously like are clearly like, the training has its limitations and everything, and I would say that a lot of the characters are clearly WWE influenced, but I mean there's absolutely like wrestlers that show potential there, and someone like Tajiri I think could really, really, really improve things for them.
Yeah, it is definitely a massive positive for the scene. I think to have someone like Tajiri, to have some of like Tajiri's like connections as well, and just like experience level, I think can only like massively benefit the scene.
And I guess I'll circle back quickly to the thing you're thinking about, like him trying to convince others to go with him. Who would go with Tajiri unless Tajiri says, I'm going to get you into Noah, or I'm going to get you into New Japan, or whatever? That just seems crazy to go along with him without some great landing spot. There's
one thing I'm scared of when it comes to Tajiri. And that is just the fact that he has a history with WWE, and because they have recently started talking again about making all of these like affiliates all around the world. So if like WWE Japan is like back on the menu essentially, like if that is something they are actually actively considering, then having someone like Tajiri, like it probably makes like the most sense for them to like bring in. And then he actually would have like a valuable like landing spot for people, or at least a landing spot, maybe not one that probably might get like big audiences, but definitely a landing spot that can offer a lot of money to talent.
Paul, did you see that William Regal is going to become a VP in WWE?
Yeah, like I saw that he becomes a VP, but I didn't really see like what exact position.
But that's another friend of Tajiri's in a high spot.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the only thing that I'm worried about, because he has all those connections to All Japan and to especially like the young talent there. And if he gets like into the ear, like I think it's really like up to like All Japan to like push these guys properly now, so that they don't get any ideas about maybe like listening to like whatever like sweet honey like Tajiri is like whispering into their ears.
Yeah, I would say at this point, because there's the obviously it's abundantly clear that the vast majority of the industry just wants to give WWE the cold shoulder about any expansion. But if anyone was going to jump in bed with them, it would be Tajiri. So, I mean, that's could be very scary.
I mean, it makes it even weirder that they actually keep around someone like Yoshitatsu, because like he also is like a former WWE guy, and like those generally tend to be like the only people in Japan that give a shit about WWE as like former WWE guys.
Well, I think give a shit about WWE in terms of maybe wanting to see them in Japan, but like there's a lot of wrestlers, and surprisingly so, that are big fans of a lot of different WWE wrestlers. Like, I mean, Hiroshi Tanahashi loves Shawn Michaels, and which I always thought was so funny. And then, so, you know, but I don't think Hiroshi
sometimes
Tanahashi...
great wrestlers don't have great taste in wrestlers that they watch.
But Hiroshi Tanahashi would never sign with WWE.
No, absolutely not. Like, yeah. Like, doesn't Naito have like someone that he really likes in WWE as well? But like, that's another one that is like never ever going to sign with WWE.
No, I can't remember who. I don't know. Who was the Joshi wrestler? I just saw this yesterday that like absolutely loved Kelly.
Wait, what, really? I don't remember that one.
Yeah. I think it was... I can't remember. I think it was someone in Stardom.
I mean, that's the one promotion where that actually somewhat makes sense, but still. Yeah. I mean, regardless of who it is someone that is just an infinitely better worker than Kelly. I think that's a very safe thing to say.
Yes, absolutely. And then I guess, Paul, given what's going on now in All Japan, what do you think of Tajiri's booking? Because it's clearly like Total Eclipse was his fingerprints all over it. And the junior division. It was
mediocre at best, I would say. It was better than whatever they were doing, or what they were doing with like Voodoo Murderers around the Budokan show, because that was just kind of really shit, and it took like the wind out of like this promotion sales really. But I also don't feel like his booking was like I did like the first half of the year. Like I think they did a lot of interesting stuff in the first half of the year, but I think it's already questionable how involved he still was in that, because he also went on that lengthy like excursion and everything. So like probably he was already like, I don't know, like his power was already reducing at that point. I don't think he was like completely out of power at that point, but it was definitely like more of a committee already. So like I think really like, because he booked probably for like most of like 2021, right? Which is, probably. I don't know, it wasn't a bad year, it was just kind of an interesting year.
Ishikawa was doing stuff too. But, I mean, Tajiri was almost certainly booking, I think, the junior division, and that was like some of the worst stuff in years. And it's weird, Tajiri leaves, and then all of a sudden the division looks like the best it has in years.
Yeah, like, because, like, yeah, the moment, like, because as bad as, like, all the Voodoo Murder stuff on top was, like, the junior division just completely, like, turned around, and all of a sudden they started pushing all of the young guys, and it actually worked, and they got over. So, yeah, weird how that works. So, yeah, I don't know. And especially, like, the thing that probably left, like, the worst taste in my mouth was him giving a title reign to Super Crazy. Especially because Super Crazy then immediately turns around, and, like, jumps to Noah. Like, that was just, like, completely unnecessary. Like, no one benefited from that except for Super Crazy. No one really wanted this. I don't think even, like, Japanese fans were, like, happy to see this. So, yeah, no, that was just a complete failure. That was, like, by far his worst booking decision.
Absolutely. And, well, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if stuff like that eventually caught up to him. You know, from the board of directors and President Fukuda and all those guys. Like, what is he doing with all of this stuff? So yeah, that's Tajiri. It's funny, Paul, because I was watching the Secret Santa match that I was given for the Voices of Wrestling Secret Santa today, and it was a tag team turmoil from Backlash 2005, and in it was William Regal and Tajiri as the champions, or at least they were the champions going into the match. And it wasn't a very good match at all. Very like classic paint by numbers WWE like gauntlet thing that you see on the pay-per-views within the tag teams. But god damn it if Tajiri wasn't great. Like the best part of the match back then, and I watched him in ECW and everything, right? And I loved him, so
Yeah, no, like I remember Tajiri was like, he was really good for a really long time. It's just, I think
he
really
was
the moment
really
he started
good.
like breaking down was, funnily enough, like the moment when he came into All Japan.
Yep. I mean, I think did he debut in 95 or was it earlier? Because he was good by 97. He was really good by 97.
Yeah, he was definitely one. He was a fast learner, yeah. And like he kept up really good working style for a really long time. Like he also adapted really well. Like when he started to like slow down, he adapted really well to like the veteran style. And then it was just like 4 or 5 years ago when he just completely just lost it.
Yeah. So that's, I think, about it. We covered the departures, we covered the shows, we covered the upcoming shows. Paul, do you have any final thoughts? Because we talked about a lot about All Japan today.
Well, I am maybe just quickly mentioning that I still need to watch actually my Secret Santa match. But let's just say it is a match that we would probably like review if we ever do like a historical show about All Japan.
Cool. So you can look forward to that. Those will be going up on Voice of Wrestling very soon. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, probably to a fault, but I don't know. I think the January shows look good, and I'm pretty hopeful about that.
Yeah, I think I'm not worried about these departures at all. I think all of them are net positives.
Right.
And maybe not Izanagi leaving, but like Izanagi was always going to leave. Like I think even if that person doesn't come in, like I think Izanagi's leaving anyway.
Well, it's not even just the departures. It's just like, okay, so we still have the Voodoo Murders slogging around, but I don't know. January looks good, so hopefully, we'll have some sort of sense like what exactly is going to go on, and can we finally rid ourselves of this? And because I think 2021 also had like a really good first half, and then before things sort of fell apart or declined, and maybe fell apart is a strong word, but declined in the second half of the year. So it would not shock me.
2019, I think, is the word. Like 2019 had a great first half, and then it just fell apart when Aoki died.
Yes, also. So I would not shock me if we come back on a show in March or February and we're like, oh, All Japan is so great. And then by the end of the summer, we want to, I don't know, we're taking pot shots at Suwama again or something like that.
Yeah, we'll get into like, I don't know, like November, and like Yuma still hasn't won the Triple Crown, and Tajiri just keeps ringing his phone, and yeah, let's see.
What's William Regal doing coming out after this All Asia Tag Title match?
It's Tajiri and William Regal against like Yoshi Tatsu and like Black Mansory for the All Asia Tag Titles.
Oh, well, I mean, if WWE's coming, Taka is going to be there.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't know. I just want WWE to stay away as far from Japan as they can, and I doubly badly want them to stay away from All Japan, because that is just the most likely target for them.
Well, since we're on this topic, I'm just going to say this because this is something that just really bothers me. But I hate when I've seen this several times. I hate when people say, Tony Khan should buy All Japan. No, fuck off. No, he shouldn't.
He absolutely shouldn't. Like, there's no reason for him to buy it, because I don't think the people realize what he's buying. He's not buying the fucking tape library. They don't control that.
The people saying that Tony Khan should buy All Japan don't even watch All Japan. So just fuck off. That's my sense of that whole thing. But anyway, I think we've talked long enough about all of this. I don't know. about our recording schedule over the holidays. We'll probably record something at some point, or maybe something even special, but we'll get back to you on that and we'll figure it out. But so, Paul, I think, though, you can say that feeling good in 2023?
Yeah, I think I'm feeling good for 2023 for both promotions. I think the All Japan kind of January schedule looks very promising. I think the from what I've heard, like tickets for the Budokan show for Noah move really, really well, and
yes,
I'm really looking forward to that show as well. So yeah, I think both promotions are like kind of like entering 2023 at least with potential to have a good year. We'll see if they'll actually like manage to capitalize on that in January, or if one or both of them kind of like shit the bed out of the gate.
A bad booking decision in either company could definitely do that. So we will see. All right. So for Paul Vosh, I'm Gerard DeTroyo, and we will talk to you in a few weeks.